of my favorite entrepreneurs here, Mark Organ, founder and CEO of Influitive. Mark's pioneered the advocate marketing space. He's a serial entrepreneur, previously having founded Eloqua, which was acquired by Oracle, and he's written a best-selling book, I would say, in the advocate marketing space. It's called "The Messenger is the Message." Mark's spoken at my conference previously and been a top-rated speaker, and I'm super excited for Mark's topic today. So, Mark, take it away.
Thanks so much. Well, I'm really excited to be here. It's one of my favorite topics because who doesn't love growth? Who doesn't want to grow 10x? And especially do it efficiently. And what I love about engaging your customers in your growth marketing effort is just how efficient an engine you're able to build if you just provide the right environment for your users and customers and enlist them in the effort because they really want to help out. I'm going to start by talking about a really exciting company. I don't know if you guys have heard about OnePlus. It's one of the fastest growing, really second fastest handset manufacturer in the world. It's based in Shenzhen, China. And when the founders a few years ago decided they wanted to create a kick-ass new handset company that was able to produce high quality at a low price, they didn't start the way that most entrepreneurs do. I mean, most entrepreneurs are going to make a beeline to the lab. They're going to create prototypes, right? They're going to get it out in front of their friends, who of course are going to say, "Oh yeah, that's great. I'd totally buy that." That's the way, so many entrepreneurs, especially technical entrepreneurs, how they go about starting their business. But that is not what Carl Pei did. They started, their first product was actually a community. They got together all of these handset nerds, you could call them. These are people who were really, really interested in having a better cell phone, better mobile phone. Got them together in the community and asked them, so what is it that you want from us? Like, how would you trade off power versus weight? What are you looking for in a camera and why? And this initial community of folks had, I guess you could say, some fatherhood, motherhood over the OnePlus One, which was the first phone that they created. And of course, when it was time to go and distribute this phone and get it out in front of people, they, as opposed to relying on advertising, it's the community that actually got the phone out in front of a lot more people. They may have set the record for the most amount of sales for the least amount of marketing, something like $300 million in revenues from the OnePlus One, and they spent a few $1,000s on marketing. Absolutely tremendous. And I really see this as the future of how companies are going to be built. They're going to start with the audience first by really understanding what it is that they want. And it's the audience that's actually going to be focused on distribution. Now, they didn't leave it to chance at OnePlus One. You can see they created a beautiful community here with lots of things for their customer, the user advocates to do. And that's really what I want to focus on here is how to go and create this amazing community of users and customers and have them do more of the marketing for you more effectively than the way that you can do yourself. And this is important, right? Because it's not all good in Marketerville these days. I mean, those of you in marketing, especially if you're in B2B marketing, which is what the space that I'm in, but even on the consumer side, you're probably seeing your response rates are really plummeting. All that ingenious copy that you create and all that SEO isn't working as well as it used to. Like those emails that you send out, you're lucky to get 0.5% response to them. There's a real lack of trust these days that users and customers have with companies, right? And part of it is they're just inundated. Everyone's inundated with so much messaging every single day. They really can't handle it anymore. So how do you deal with this, right? How do you deal with the fact that people are feeling inundated? How do you reach people and how do you persuade people in this kind of environment? Now, it turns out that there was a person who wrote about this many years ago. This is the 1960s. He's a fellow Torontonian. His name is Marshall McLuhan. I'm from Toronto, Canada as well. And he coined this incredible phrase, the medium is the message. The medium is the message. Now, what does that mean? Right? So what it meant is that the dominant medium of the time says more about the nature of a society than the actual content that is being discussed. So I had a really prophetic thing to say, and he said this in the age of television, right? So in the age of television, that was such an interesting medium at the time. For the first time, these, mandarins of Madison Avenue could almost literally program their audience. Right? These people were sitting back, they were leaning back in their living rooms, and they could be, suggested in terms of things that they wanted to buy by these amazing marketing mavens. But that's not the environment we're in today at all, right? People don't want to be programmed anymore. And so one of the aspects of his theory is that there are a lot of unanticipated benefits and consequences of these new media. And I mentioned maybe some of the benefits, but in terms of some of the consequences, people don't really want to be programmed. And so when the World Wide Web came around with the ability to personalize communications, it's something that really took off. But now we're in an environment where, there's lots of ersatz personalization everywhere, and there's a real lack of trust out there. So what is the medium of our time? And we say is that the medium of our time is the messenger, right? When you have so many different people and companies that are broadcasting these sort of semi-personalized messages, and at the same time, it's never been easier for us to connect with knowledgeable peers, right? People just like ourselves who've also bought a particular product, and we could find out from them what their experience is like. And that's probably the way that you consume the world in terms of the audience. Right? When you are looking to make looking for a special night out, you probably go and consult with Yelp or TripAdvisor to go get the right kind of offering that you're seeking. If you're looking for a new job, you're probably looking at Glassdoor first. If somebody's giving you a pitch on a new product, you probably go to your LinkedIn group and say, hey, have any of you guys heard of this thing? Right? That's the message of our time, is the messenger, is that if there's somebody that we trust and that who we believe has our best interests at heart and is acting authentically, that is the best way to get something to market. In fact, that's always been true. I think, if you look at old newspaper clippings from 200 years ago, you'll find that there were testimonials that were in those old advertisements. So people have always wanted to hear from authentic folks. Now it's just never been easier and faster and less risky for people to do that. So the way to go to market in this way with messengers is to get your customer and user advocates much more engaged about your company and your product. And that's what we want to talk about today, is how do you go and take your users and customers, which may be a little bit apathetic, or maybe there's too much friction for them to do what it is they want to do, which is to advocate for your company. How do you get them to be maximally engaged and really working as part of your team, almost like a quasi-employee? How do you do that? So first, it might be useful to talk about what an advocate actually is. And there's actually a lot of different definitions of this. I'm speaking in Brazil next week, and I just found out that in Brazil, advocates really are lawyers. They're not like the way we think of them here, which is, these people who are really enthusiastic about our companies and are willing to risk their time and reputation in order to support us. We have an expansive view of what an advocate is here at Influitive. These are not just people who are going to give you the occasional referral. It's really any investment, any non-financial investment in your company or brand. So people who are giving you feedback about your product, about your messaging, that counts, right? This is a non-financial investment in your company. And I think what you'll see when you look at any kick-ass company, you will find that they have legions of advocates that are helping them build their business, generating referrals and references, case studies, videos, feedback, all sorts of things. These companies have an unpaid and very effective army of people that are helping them grow. So many ways advocates can help. A big one that we focused on here from the beginning at Influitive is with increasing trust via social proof. So these are everything from testimonials and videos, reviews online, right? I mentioned Yelp and TripAdvisor, but in the B2B world, you have G2 Crowd and Trust Radius and Quora and all kinds of different sites like that. Social amplification, right? If we read about things from our peers, we're more likely to act on it. Companies need way, way, way more social proof now than they ever did before because people are looking for that trust. So now I want to talk about really what is the main focus of my presentation, which is how to motivate advocates. Like, how do you get these people, which you have? I mean, you have people who care about your company and product and want to see you successful. How do you get them to do a lot more activity? And there's both macro and micro factors that are involved in motivating them. So let's get to that now. So we have an advocate motivation model, and I got this from interviewing, literally over 800, we call super advocates. These are people who do more than 200 pieces of advocacy a year. And we asked them a very simple question. Like, what would it take for you to do 3 times as much activity as you do today for a company, a product, or brand that you really love? And this is what we learn. We learn that there's 3 main things that they want to get them to do a lot more activity. The first is they want to be part of an exclusive tribe, have meaningful impact, and then generate social capital. So how does this work? So why do people paint their faces at sporting events? I think it's because people long to be part of something that's bigger than themselves. They want to be part of a movement. And it's even better if that movement is exclusive. So these folks here, these Oakland Raiders fans, clearly are not your ordinary human beings. They are part of an exclusive tribe of people who are incredibly excited about this particular company. You see this here, soccer people, carving Messi into their hair, or, of course, Yamaha and Kawasaki have this legion of people who are really excited about them. Just kidding. You don't really see that from them. You really see that from Harley Davidson, right? People who carve the hog, Harley over the Harley ownership group. They carve it right into their bodies, right? So why do they do that? They do that because they want to be part of a movement. And you can do this with your community. You can make people feel like they are part of this exclusive tribe. They're part of your movement. And if you do, they're going to be much more likely to generate a lot of activity for you. So give your community a name. Make it inspiring for them. Because if you do it right, you can actually have people feel like they're more a part of your company even than their own company. So meaningful impact, that's another thing that really all human beings really long for. Really all organisms do. Every organism needs feedback. But people especially do need this sort of feedback. And they want to know they're making a real impact on the world. One of the reasons why startups enjoy so much more advocacy than large companies, even though we do work with a lot of large companies, but with startups, when you advocate for them, you're moving the meter for them, right? You know that you're making a real impact on your business. You can drive even more of this for your company by telling people how much impact they've made. If someone's written a guest blog post for you, let them know how many hits they've had, how many thumbs up. If they've done a referral, let them know that that referral is now in a demo stage or is closed. Understanding that meaningful impact makes people want to do a lot more. And the third thing is social capital. When people, as a result of advocating for you, they don't just generate more appreciation for people in the community. They generate a lot of appreciation for people even outside of the community. Right? They do better in their life, in their career, as a result of advocating for you. So here you can see me handing out these amazing trophies. It's something that we do. We give people these social capital. This way, have badges that people can put on their LinkedIn. Really make people feel special and that they are advancing their life and career because of their involvement with your company. Now, one company that's done an amazing job of this is Tesla. You'll notice that Tesla doesn't really do any traditional marketing. You probably have not seen them do any advertising. They don't have commission sales reps. What they do is they mobilize their community to do that. One of the ways they do that is with these car clubs that they run. And these are pretty incredible. What they do is you have a happy Tesla customer that invites a friend to go and drive around the car with them. They have little races and car rallies, all sorts of things. The conversion on this is absolutely amazing. So 70% conversion, literally 70% of people who've engaged in this sort of test drive. It's not even a test drive, really. That's the amazing thing. They're just riding along with a friend, end up buying a Tesla. It is absolutely incredible. And there's no test drive involved. That's versus a 12% conversion that you typically see on a test drive. So tremendous performance. It's all entirely advocate driven. And of course, it's a lot cheaper than having a commission sales force. To take it a step further though, if you go and refer a friend to go and buy a Tesla, you get $1,000 off, and you get $1,000 and they get $1,000 off their car. It goes even further from there. If you can get 10 people to go and buy a Tesla, you get access to a special Founders Edition of the car. So you still have to buy the car. It's the amazing thing. You still have to buy the car, but you get access to a special edition that's only available to super advocates. It's got every feature you can imagine in there. This is a company that really, really understands advocate psychology, and you can take advantage of some of these techniques in for your company as well. So those are some of the macro factors. Now I'm going to talk about some of the micro factors, and I'll divide those into two. One is white hat, and the other is black hat. So in terms of white hat growth marketing, the way I think about this is your disciplined experimentation. It's actually my background. Before I got into business, I was a research scientist, and in many ways, I think my job hasn't changed. I'm still running experiments all day long. I have hypotheses about how I think the world might work. I'm trying to prove them. So your white hat growth marketing, you are running tests and experiments, and you're trying to prove your model on the world. And one way that we do this is with game mechanics. I'm a big fan of gamification. I think game mechanics is just feedback in a little black dress. It's just a way to get feedback from people in a way that humans really like and appreciate. You'll notice that if you play a game, generally no one's coaxing you to play that game. You're doing it on your own. It's because you enjoy it. And you can leverage some of the same techniques in your community in order to drive your success. So these are things like missions and points and badges. And of course, we have our own software where we do quite a lot of this. That doesn't mean you need to have a sort of spiffed up advocate community in order to drive these sorts of benefits. But it does mean that you should let people know, again, how they're doing. You should even let people know how they're doing relative to their peers. You should show your appreciation by telling people, wow, you're a real connector, or you're really great at persuading people. We've, of course, done this inside of our software, but it's not required at all in order to be successful. And I'd love to tell you about some great success that we've had. And one of them here is in getting advocates inside of our advertising. And we did some A/B testing on this, and we found some tremendous success that when we include our happy customers in our advertising, we get a much higher, much more success, right? So from a 2% to a 14% response rate. This particular campaign that we ran has generated millions of dollars pipeline for us. This one in particular was over 100 SQOs for a given quarter, which for us is quite a lot for a single campaign. And now this has become a part of really everything that we do in terms of, especially when we're doing things in advertising, is we're always leveraging our advocates. And one of the things you can see here is a typical challenge that we'd run and said, hey, would you like to be part of our campaign? Right? So for some points, you can be part of it. You can see on the top left-hand corner, you can see all the other people who have also done that particular challenge. And this is an easy way to get in front of your customers and say, hey, would you be willing to help us out? And of course, you can do the same thing, not just for ads. You can do this for speaking on stage, for reference. Would you be willing to speak with this impressive person who wants to buy our product? There's really no shortage of opportunities to get your advocates involved. And it's this sort of constant testing and experimentation where you try different points, you try different types of copy. And so we're constantly experimenting, and so have our customers, with different game schemes, different copy, different colors, and seeing what really drives the most success in terms of getting advocates involved. So that's white hat growth hacking, testing, experimentation, iterative approach. But then there's black hat growth hacking. This is really more gray hat, I think, than black hat, but this is the idea of finding under-leveraged channels. This is huge, right? I mean, you can look at, there's a number of companies that have built multi-billion-dollar types of enterprises, mainly by first finding an under-leveraged channel. Think about Airbnb and their hack and how they got their photos into Craigslist and the amazing empire that they built by finding that under-leveraged channel on Craigslist. It's pretty amazing. So one of the things that we and our customers are doing all the time is trying to find that new channel out there that not a lot of people have heard of, but is newly influential. So this is the question we like to ask people. Who or what is newly influential for you over the last 6 months? What was not on your radar before at all and now is actually very influential for you? And we've seen this sometimes be an analyst firm. This can be a certain person, a blogger who's saying amazing things online. Lately, we've seen people have these private WhatsApp groups where they are engaging with their peers. And that is what's influential for you. We did this for one of our customers, which is Case Networks, part of Dell. And they found out, this was a few years ago, they found out that Reddit was actually incredibly influential for their target market. It was surprising for them and for us as well. And so they saw, let's see, I think this one back. No, this is the thing. So a few things they did. Number one, they found out from a number of their advocates, again, that Reddit was something that there were a number of subreddits where there were people that were rating and reviewing these types of endpoint security products. And so they found, as they were looking through Reddit, they found one person that was asking, how do these different vendors stack up against each other? And so they put out a challenge to say, hey, can you help out this Reddit user? Can you help them be able to make a better decision? And of course they did. And they're able to get inserted into this particular subreddit people talking about Case and how great it was. And the person who ended up buying a Case product said, this isn't something that actually was on my radar at all. But now that I read it here, this is something that I'm pretty interested in. They've had now 19 positive product reviews that have showed up on Reddit. And again, this is really powerful, right? These aren't ads. These are authentic people that are communicating honestly about their experience with Case. And it's had incredible result. So find those under-leveraged channels and then use your advocates to dominate that channel before your competition can. And it is a great way to be successful. So let's put it all together. Advocate motivation, the macro factors, have people be part of an exclusive tribe, make them feel the impact of the activities that they do in a meaningful way, and then generate social capital for them. Those are the macro factors. And then white hat and black hat growth hacking, constant experimentation and iteration, but also find those under-leveraged channels and get your customers involved in them. You put all these things together and you can generate an incredible advocate program, very low-cost way to build and grow your business. So that's what I'd like to leave you with. I'd like you to make advocates your messengers for the market. Consider using your customers for more of the kinds of activities that today you use your sales reps to do, you use your content to do, you use even your normal growth hacking to do. Consider using your customers and your users because they're more effective and really motivated to help you succeed. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention, and I'll sign off. Cheers.
Awesome, Mark. Great presentation. I learned a ton myself and ready to implement it in my business as well. So thank you for making the time. A couple of questions here that perhaps you can touch on is, as a founder of companies that you've taken from startup phase to all the way to sub-billion-dollar exit to Eloqua, what are some things you have personally done to engage advocates and your customers into your business?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, lots of things we could talk about here. Probably one of the simplest, but I think most effective, and something that we're scaling up here dramatically now at Influitive. It's pretty interesting. Are dinners. Dinners with getting customers and prospects together. It doesn't have to be dinner. It could be a breakfast. It could be lunch. I guess it doesn't even have to necessarily be a meal at all, although it helps. I think there's something sort of primal about breaking bread together with people that harkens back to our ancient history as human beings. But yeah, just getting, for example, 7 prospects, 3 customers, and then maybe me or someone else at our company together over a meal has been just magical for generating new business. Both for generating, in some cases, new leads, or in persuading people who are already interested in our ideas to take the next plunge. We have a particular style. We try to really make these memorable. They're not just your ordinary sort of chit chat, but we really try to make these meals sort of interesting. And we're scaling this up now, so we're trying to go for 3 or 4 of these a week, because it's quite a low cost and effective way to go to market. So that's something that I think literally everybody can do. Even if you're B2C, you can still take your power, invite your power users together to talk about, how you can improve as a company, as a product. I think you could do that. But it works especially well in the B2B area. So that's one. User conferences is another one that's becoming very popular. And maybe that's just a bigger version, really, of a dinner, right? Is getting people together and having speakers. I mean, very much like your event at Traction, is another great way to do that. That's another thing you can do, low cost online. We're experimenting with more online types of formats for getting people together. One that's been really successful, something we call coffee time. And coffee time is literally just a customer with a cup of coffee on a Google Hangout together with 4 or 5 prospects at the same time. Again, very effective, very low cost, and actually quite enjoyable and useful for both the advocate and the prospects for getting together. And one of the things that we've learned is the more ways you use advocates, the better experience they actually have. If you're just asking people for referrals all day long, that's actually not that exciting. But if you've got people who are helping you build your next iteration of your product, that are helping you with your messaging, helping you close deals by talking to the right people, they feel now more a part of your company than their company. And that's one of the things we found is a real key to success in advocate marketing.
Awesome. No, that's some great advice here. You talked about making these dinners memorable. What are 1 or 2 things that you've done to make them memorable? Because you're inviting prospects, you're inviting clients, so your prospects shouldn't feel like they're being sold to.
For sure, yeah. So we have a few rules. So number one, if there are any influitive people there, we don't sell. Like, our job is not to sell. Our job is to be the host. So we might talk about our kids or our hobbies or working out and stuff, but or the fine wine and the food, but we don't talk about our company. We don't talk about our products, because you're right. People don't like to be sold to. People like to interact with their peers. So that's one thing. Secondly, we always try to get a private room. So you have to make it quiet. A round table or square table is ideal, so that people can really hear each other and talk. And most restaurants don't have that. You really have to find the right place that has this sort of environment. We try to get one conversation going, as opposed to everybody sort of chit-chatting and making small talk with their neighbor. The time for small talk typically is before the dinner, like when the hors d'oeuvres are coming, and that's a great time people get to know each other and chit-chat. But once the actual essentially formal proceedings go, there's usually single questions that a number of people have a chance to answer. And there's a number of different formats we have, but sometimes we have competitions and people vote for who's made some of the most engaging and enlightening comments, and sometimes there's prizes at the end of the night for people who've done that. So that's one of my favorite formats actually that I do, and it makes things fun. But having that single-threaded conversation is a way to drive a lot more value for people. Because while small talk is fun and interesting for a little while, it doesn't actually drive a lot of fundamental value. And then again, by having things like competitions and that, I think it makes things more fun. I also try to, I personally might mention something a little more personal that's going on in my life, as a way to really connect with people and encourage other people to do the same thing, right? That human connection is very memorable, right? That you may not remember a lot of what I've said, but you might remember something that I might have said about my son or about something else that's going on in my life. So those are some of the things. We actually now have a formula for this, and I would encourage people in the audience who are thinking about using these sort of advocate meals as a way to go to market is to create your own formula. To use your growth hacking techniques to try different ideas and to eventually come up with something that's uniquely your own. Because then it's something that's in demand. Then when you issue out invitations for people to come, you're much more likely to have people who've heard about your company and heard about these dinners that you're running, and are more likely people in the audience who are thinking about using these sort of advocate meals as a way to go to market is to create your own formula. To use your growth hacking techniques to try different ideas and to eventually come up with something that's uniquely your own. Because then it's something that's in demand. Then when you issue out invitations for people to come, you're much more likely to have people who've heard about your company and heard about these dinners that you're running and are more likely to want to show up.
Yeah, definitely. They've been working for us as well. We do it under the Traction brand, and we're doing one in Seattle. So I was curious how you've scaled this, and this is excellent learning for myself, and I'm sure a lot of the audience. A couple of questions around your platform. If someone wants to bring advocate marketing and think about it more deliberately and turn it into its own sort of channel within your company, how can we use and leverage your platform?
Cool. So the question, how do you leverage our platform? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Well, a great way to get started to learn about it is to come to our website. There's lots and lots of great resources there on how to create your community and how to name it and what sort of challenges to put in there and how to do the gamification, that sort of thing. It is still it's still an art form. We're learning every day as well. In fact, we're learning a lot from our customers. But that's a great way to get started, is to read some of the ebooks and blog posts and whatnot that we have. It's actually quite easy to get started. I mean, technically, there's really not a lot that's involved technically to set up. I mean, it could set up in a matter of minutes. The bigger challenge is more understanding your own company, really, and understanding the role that customers can play in the way that you go to market. And that typically is what takes a little bit longer, is for people to think through what their goals are and to say, okay, well, I think advocates can really help out in demand gen. I'd like my prospects to be nurtured by customers. I'd like to get, great speakers to my conference and generate more advocacy at my user event. And I'd like to get advocates helping out with content. Okay, those are my goals. I'm going to set objectives there and focus the effort on those things. That's would typically take some time. I think, just like many technology implementations, understanding your own needs first is actually the hardest part. Once you understand that, then working with us to drive those goals becomes a lot more clear. Yeah, other than that, I mean, again, technically the implementation is really not that difficult. Maybe another thing people could do before starting to work with us is actually talk to some of their happy customers. You know who they are. You can go to your social media tracking and see who's been tweeting about you. I mean, you can talk to your sales reps. I mean, who do we count on for references that, whenever we introduce prospects to them, the deals always close. So you know who they are. Maybe have a conversation with them and ask them, so why do you love our company so much? What do we mean to you? And how do we provide a better experience for you? Not just in your customer role, but in your advocate role. When you are on a reference call for us, or if you're on stage, how do we make that experience amazing for you? And then